Today is a beautiful day here in Southern California on KHTS. That's right, Aaron. KHTS, hometownstation.com. And every single Tuesday at 1 o'clock, the show's called The Business of Life. I've been doing it for almost 20 years. I interview authors, entertainers, interesting people, mainly successful people. And today, I have a very special guest for the whole hour. He has his own radio show on hometownstation.com on KHTS 1220 AM. Every single Tuesday, I listen to a show. Now, do I have to listen to a show? No, I want to. It's an interesting show. It's a show about money, which I'm interested in. It's a show... Well, you know, Arif, today's show was a little bit more about money. Today's show was really, really compelling show. I don't want to get into it, but I want to get into something else, but we can touch on it. Abuse in the family by either the male or the female obviously can cause a divorce, but it can cause you to be financially broke.
You know, I'll tell you that. Thanks for having me on the show. One of the things is in radio or any kind of a business or show topic conversation, every once in a while you get into that yucky spot. You know, you've got to talk about certain issues and having domestic violence issues where it doesn't just affect the physical or the mental or the emotional, but there's a financial component. And when you lock out the victim from financial options, whether it's messing up their credit so they can't buy or lease a car or get an apartment, you start creating almost a prison type environment where they can't leave. And so sometimes we've got to cover those things on the show. Yeah,
it was a very good show. Your show every week, I listen to because I want to, and I learn so much. Let me get into a little bit of an angst that I have, because we have young people in our audience today listening to our show, which is unusual. I would think that most people, started listening to radio at, 30? Because if you're a kid, you're listening to your podcast, you're listening to music, right? You're not listening to talk radio.
Well, I think today you're going to find a lot of young people are probably more topic generated.
There you go.
As opposed to whatever that station is playing is now your favorite song or your
So
favorite.
Here is your expertise. You're the CEO, the president, the owner of Total Financial Services or
Solutions.
Systems. Solutions,
Yep.
Not services, not systems.
We have services, we have a couple systems, but we are solutions.
Total
oriented.
Financial Solutions.
That's right.
All right. Here's my angst. You ready, Arif?
Let me hear it.
Why your subject, and you brought it up today, why isn't your subject starting to be talked about in junior high school? Why isn't there a full class in high school and a major in college? Because your subject, and you talked about today, insurance, saving money, investing money, this is the essence of life. I mean, you're in the top 0.5% of society. I'm probably in the top 1%. And I started working on investing and saving money when I was in my 20s. Now, did I have a lot of money to save? But, you know, you talked about it last year when I listened to your show. You know what I started doing? Christmas Club.
Nice.
Do they even have Christmas clubs
They
anymore?
sure do. Credit unions still do.
Oh, they do?
Yeah, maybe banks, but I know credit unions do.
So that got me on the path of saving money. So and we have educators listening. It's summertime. We have teachers listening. We have administrators listening. I'm appalled that this isn't part of our society in education.
Look, when we used to be a society where we bartered and traded, and that was you were a great chicken farmer and I was a great shoemaker. So my shoes were top of the line. People came from everywhere. And so you said, I need 5 pairs of shoes for my family. And I said, well, your chickens are so-so, man. You've got some disease. They're not that big. I need 15 chickens, and I'll give you 5 pairs of shoes. And you'd say, come on, Arif, my chickens are pretty good. And we negotiated, and it comes up with 12 chickens. Right? So how well you managed what you were good at dictated your wealth. If you were a great wheat farmer and you were able to get yields out of the fields, you did pretty well with your wealth. Today, wealth is only dictated by money. And yet you have, and forgive me, my educator and scholarly friends, degree has almost nothing to do with wealth, success, happiness. In fact, you want to give somebody a greater chance of being broke and poor and always living in the worst financial condition. Give them a master's or a PhD.
Well, you're preaching the choir, son. I mean, I say all the time, 80% of kids going to college are just parked themselves because their parents had an expectation. They started talking about college when they were in the 6th grade. If most people went and found a mentor like yourself or myself, and think about it. Somebody wanted to get in the financial services industry and hung with you for 4 years. That would be like a doctorate's degree.
I'll tell you what, the only reason I have anything is because I grew up very broke. No, not poor, because my parents, poor is a mindset, right? Why is it that there's generation after generation after generation are in poverty and on government assistance? And yet you have people come to this country, they sleep in the back of liquor stores and donut shops and nail salons. They sleep on the floor, they work. There's no such thing as Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. Give me overtime, what's my bonus, what's my union pay? They just work, and they understood family values and saving. And what they get is 5 years later, they're a manager, 10 years later, they own the place, 20 years later, they're a millionaire. And these are the people that came over here, and you'll hear the stories. I have them as friends and mentors myself. And they'll say, I came here with $200. I came here with one suitcase. I came here with the clothes on my back. And yet you have families all across this country for generations that can't get out of their own way. I'm not here to tell you why, from a research point of view. I can only tell you of 21 years in the financial business and 10 years as an investor prior to that when my dad brought over his family from Lebanon in 1976, and they had to have my bedroom, so my bedroom went from my bedroom with my sister to the living room floor, back to my bedroom, my parents' bedroom floor, to the garage. From the 8th grade till I was 23, my bedroom was the garage. Now that's nice and fun and adventurous when you're a kid, except there isn't any air conditioning or heat. So when it's like this, I can't tell you how miserable it was when it's 100 degrees outside or when it's 45 degrees outside, because there's no insulation. It's the garage. But what it did for me is it taught me that family mattered. Now, your earlier question was, where did this lack of financial knowledge come from? I'll tell you. I think when suddenly we realized that very, very few people went to college, because here's what it used to be like. You'd have 6 children, and your oldest boy, because no girls would ever go to college, heaven forbid, for what reason? My mom, they said, you don't even need to graduate high school, a Michigan farm girl. You don't even need to graduate high school. What did you want to be a secretary? Okay, go. My mom's like, no, I just want to graduate high school. So heaven forbid, back in the day, you'd have your one son, and you'd say, all right, son, you go find knowledge and you go bring it back. We're going to be farmers here. We're chicken farmers. We're goat farmers, whatever. You go and you come back. And 3, 4, 5 years later, he comes back. He goes, oh my gosh, let me tell you what I found. So what used to be the case was knowledge was power. Isn't the case anymore. You have young people playing by an old set of rules. They're still trying to figure out how to ride a bicycle, and we are sending ships to the moon. Metaphorically speaking, you understand that they actually think that it's about, we need to ask the right question. What a bunch of hogwash. Well, universities are no longer about the question.
Man, you're right in my pathway. The very special guest on the show called The Business of Life is Arif Hanabi, the owner, CEO, the president of Total Financial Solutions right here in Newhall. And you can just hear his beautiful voice. He's smart, but he's spot on. And, I go back to 2 areas. One is the administrators in our educational system. I cannot believe they're continually educating the way you and I were educated 50, 60 years ago. Now, I'm older than you, but these people are sleeping at the switch. They ought to all be fired. You and I take over the educational system in the state. We could turn this thing around in 5 years. In 5 years, we could turn this thing around.
You know how...
And the public allows these people to continue, these bureaucrats that are sending kids to school, not getting educated. Young people coming out of college do not have the ability to help a company make a profit. They don't have the skills.
You have that whole millennial mindset. Whatever it is, good or bad, it just is what it's called at the moment. What does that mean? It means that the shift occurred when the currency used to be your skill set. So how good you were at what you did. You started out as an apprentice shoemaker. You became a journeyman. Your goal eventually, believe it or not,
probably working for your father.
Yeah, that's right. My dad, that's right. You worked for your own dad, maybe your uncle. Maybe they sent you off to the town and they said, you just go and you're going to basically become an indentured servant to that man or woman, usually a man, until he or she says you're ready to be your own tailor, shoemaker, whatever it is, right? So you become that. And then your goal was to buy a machine. And then it was to get 2 machines. Nowhere in there did it say, oh, and by the way, they're going to invest in a 401k in the stock market. You were supposed to be good at what you do. So today, why do I say that? Because today, what do? They say, oh, you got to go get a bachelor's degree. Okay. Now get a master's degree.
So what
So you
getting
go
a
from
bachelor's
apprentice-
degree, what does that mean?
That means you're a journeyman.
It means you know how to pass the test.
Yeah, that's right. Well, listen, look, my kids have to have their bachelor's degree or they get zero inheritance. They know that. My oldest two got it at the age of 19. My youngest is 17 and he just finished his first year of college. I am not anti-school. People, I spent a lot of my personal money for strangers' kids to go to college. I have and provide multiple dollars in scholarships. I won't give you numbers, but lots of money for other people's kids that probably I'll never see again to go to college. I'm not anti-college, so don't be crazy. It is about anti-college has the purpose for what? When you are a bachelor's degree, that is a journeyman. Your job is to become something. But if you're not going to learn how to become, understand that it's no longer about, you can have 15 degrees. It's how well you manage the money you're paid with. That's the end of the story. The chicken farmer is paid with $1, so is the tailor, so is the wheat farmer.
There's a little bit more to it. The show is called The Business of Life. It's Tuesday. It's 1 o'clock, and I have every Tuesday at 1 just the best guest in the country. I'm not lying. I've been doing this for 20 years. Smart people, successful people. If you tune in every Tuesday at 1, it's like going to Harvard. Well, I don't want to say Harvard. I would say Oregon. It's like going to the University of Oregon. Why did I say Harvard? But let me get back to something. So I really agree with you 100%, Arab. The other thing I would add is that kids do not have the social skills. So let's talk about that for a second. To me, the social skills are right up there with the technical skills, because if you can't interview properly for a job and now you get hired and you can't work with your fellow associates, you don't get along with your superiors, you don't show up for work on time, your work ethic, you're looking at your watch and leaving at 5 o'clock. All these social issues are actually bigger once you get in the real world. Nice people, likable people, those are the people that get hired, those are the people that get kept, those are the people that get promoted. Now, if you have skills like you have to go along with those social skills, now you're really moving up the food chain.
It changes when you realize. Go to colleges today. Listen, for some of you don't know my history, of course, but I spent 11 years almost as a Los Angeles police officer. My last job, if you will, was as a recruiter. So I would go around the country, try to say, hey, come join LAPD, mostly around the state, but some other states as well. I was in a big car accident and had to retire in 1994, was the big car accident. So through those multiple surgeries and stuff, I had to retool my life. But let me explain something. I'd go to universities with my uniform and the gun and the badge and the stripes, and I'd walk in, and what would you see in the corner? You'd see the Chinese students over there. Heaven forbid you call them Korean. They're over here. Oh, and then you see the black students over here, and you see the white students over there. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm trying to recruit for a diverse place called community cops. That's what we were called, because after Rodney King, they changed what we were supposed to do. We're supposed to bring in a diverse group of people. And at the place where their minds were supposed to be open, we'd go into the student center and everybody would have their own association. You'd have the Gay Students Association, the Catholic Students Association. Everybody would have a students, and you're like, so how are we supposed to pull from a group who has now been conditioned for 4 years to be segregated? And we're supposed to say, and now you got to come in and get along with everybody and be a police officer in a community that you're supposed to deal with everybody and treat them all the same. I would go to my supervisors and I'd say, you guys, something's wrong here. We'd go in and half the students would be sitting over there and half over here, and they're not allowed to talk to each other. Like, what do you mean they're not allowed to talk to each other? I don't know why. You don't see them get along. You'd see them go into the cafeteria and they go sit over there and they go, am I wrong? Is it just me? I don't know.
No, it's not you. And the bigger issue, and I'm still harping on it, the administrators, the teachers, the professors, we're talking about college more than high school now, they're preaching a different story. They're not. When I went to school, and maybe when you went to school, and thank you for your service on the LAPD,
Thanks.
Patriotism was taught. Patriotism, the love of this country, was taught. It's not taught today, just the opposite. Let's bash institutions. Let's bash big government, big corporations. Anything big is evil. So these kids, the kids that you're looking at, they're comfortable staying in their own culture. They're not comfortable dealing with institutions. You represented that badge and that gun and that uniform represented something that their teachers have been harping against not to respect. So I know for a fact around the country, police departments are really challenged right now in recruiting the kind of police officers we want.
We were in the same position when I was in recruitment and in background investigations back in the early 90s. We were in the same position. People hated law enforcement after the Rodney King event. It was a real horrible time. Here's where the change is different between now and then. Back then, you had a society where people still believed that the step one, go to school, get a good job, right? The old, we want you to get a good job and go to college. And it was really, be a doctor, marry a doctor, be a lawyer, marry a lawyer.
Still nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. And that's what, here's Jimmy. He's a doctor. Oh, great. Okay, so what is the number one profession that files bankruptcy? Doctors. Because they're uneducated? No, because we taught them to be amazing farmers. And by the way, today farmers are paid with money. And we taught who? Doctors to be amazing doctors, and we forgot to teach them that they're paid with money.
And we're circling all the way back
it's
to
exactly
when we
the
started
same
the show.
thing.
Eric Hanaby, the CEO. How do you pronounce your last
Hallaby.
name? Hallaby. What's wrong with Hanaby?
Well, it's not a bad name.
There's no N in there. This is Hallaby.
That's right. It's very close.
H-A-L.
But completely different.
Hallaby. I'll get it right from now on.
That's all right, Ron.
Arif Hallaby, very, very successful businessman right here in Southern California. The show is called The Business of Life. I would love to have you on every week with me because you're somebody that gets it, and I don't understand why we can't figure out how to get your message, which is about investing, saving, paying attention to your own life, all the good things that people need to know in the real world. It's sad when you and I both know this. We know people in their mid-50s that don't have a dime.
I can tell you the biggest...
Isn't that sad?
It's enormously sad because here's the challenge that we get. You get somebody in their 40s, even their 30s now, they're starting to see it in their let's say mid-30s. They'll walk into my office and they'll come in and they'll, what do I do? I'm a whatever profession and I have a bachelor's, even a master's degree, wonderful. And you'll talk to them and then the door, closes and it's just them and I, and I'll say, do you feel like you've been suckered, kind of taken for a ride with this whole student loan deal? They're like, oh man, my first job was at a fast food place and I had $75,000 in student loans. And Look, when I started 21 years ago as a financial professional, last week, or 2 weeks now, it's been 21 years, credit cards were the problem. You want to know the biggest mistake you can do in your life, my friends, from a guy who has seen 10,000 plus people, is get student loans.
The biggest mistake that you can make in your life is
student loan, financially speaking.
It's not three putting?
No. Three putting is hard.
It's very hard.
But if you have an Odyssey putter like me, you can do it.
I've got a Titleist. All right. The show is called The Business Life every Tuesday at 1 o'clock. This guy's smart. This guy is smart. He has his own show at noon. You and Jeff are very, very good. I mean, you're touching all the high points. Again, where is the leadership in our society? So
here's what I've been avoiding, right?
Can I ask this question?
Yeah, please, in English.
So I will do it in English. His name is Hallaby. His first name is Arif, and he's the CEO of Total Financial Solutions here in Santa Clarita, California. Actually, Newhall on Main Street. I'm telling you, if you're listening and you don't know what to do with your money, or maybe you did something wrong with your money, this is not a bad guy to call. Thanks. His name is Arif Hallaby. If I gave out your number, nobody writes it down.
No,
first of all, most of our listeners are driving anyway, or they're in their cubbyhole and their boss doesn't know they're listening to the show. Shh. Okay, so listen to me. Parents, why aren't you putting on big time? Parents don't know what to do. They don't. So we were blaming the administrators and the professors. Let's get back to the home. The parents don't know what to do. If what I just said is true, that most people, not most, but a great percentage in their mid-50s don't have the ability to be financially independent, how are they going to coach, mentor, guide, lead their kids?
Yes. When you say somebody walks in the door at 50 years old or less, and they still have more debt than they've ever had in their life, the biggest challenge that they come, when I say that's the biggest problem, obviously financial problem, is that they bought into a system and they feel like they've been taken. And they feel yucky inside. Like if you've ever been ripped off or you ever got scammed or thought something was that it wasn't, you feel yucky.
Yes, I bought a pillow once. That's all I'm going to say. Recently, and you can figure out who I bought the pillow from. We're going to come right back Aaron is producing the show. He's a fabulous young man. Aaron, what do you think about what we're saying? Is there anything that is getting you fired up about what Arif and I are saying? Is there anything? Do you think we're wrong or right or half wrong or half baked?
Well, it's a lot of stuff to take in, But
why don't you listen to the show every Monday at 1 o'clock?
I'm here. I'm listening in. I have headphones in. But I think you guys are right in the fact that a lot of kids go to college because they're supposed to. That's the
right.
thing
That's
you're supposed to go to. They don't go in with a plan. And even when they're there, they waste 2, 3, 4 years even sometimes, either at a community college or even at a 4-year university, taking general ed courses and building towards really nowhere.
What? Towards what?
Towards what?
If they would buy my book, here's my book in the thinking room. Book's $500 a copy. You don't even need to go to college. Just read the book. You don't. Here's the book, right?
You know what? I've actually I know somebody that's read your book, and they actually said it's pretty good.
Pretty good book.
Yeah.
Coming up, maybe if she calls in, and you have a great skill. I'm trying to learn how to listen, but this lady wrote a book called "Listen to Succeed." We'll see if she calls in. I'm going to come back after we'll take a quick break on Hometown Station. Remember, you can listen to our show and Arif's show, which is at noon. So think about it. Every Tuesday from 12 to 2. Sit back, grab, I was going to say a little drink, but water's okay, right?
Yeah, water or...
For 2 hours, you're going to actually learn it. Maybe you're not only going to learn something, you might get inspired. I get inspired listening to your show. That's why you're on my show.
Thank you.
I really
that.
do.
It's nice to be here. A lot of things that people
You should be
forget.
on 3 hours every day.
We used to be on 3 hours a week, 2 hours on one day and 1 hour on another day, but we got busy.
All right. We'll be right back. Going to take a quick break. Here's my question of Arif. What should we do? Where do we start to take care of our own lives so that we're not dependent on the federal government at the end of our lives? That is a question that needs to be answered. We'll be right back on the show called The Business Life. Arif Halaby at Total Financial Solutions. Be right back.